welcome to episode 17 of Debra Quilts Lots and Knits Bits. I'm Debra McCracken and I quilt a lot and I knit a little bit. So welcome to my studio in beautiful Penticton, British Columbia, Canada. If you're new to my podcast, my video log, welcome. I come here occasionally to chat about the things that I'm working on with my knitting and my quilting and just general life in general. So today is Saturday, May 23rd, and I'm here. I did a little video earlier of a studio tour. So I will put that at the end of this one, and I'm going to keep this short. I wanted to record on Wednesday. It was a beautiful sunny day out, and I had just finished my Wrap Me Up sweater scarf, and the neighbors were having some work done, and it was really noisy down here. So I didn't record, and the last few days have been kind of rainy. But that's okay because I got something else. That's so cute. So I'll just get into it. I'm going to keep this part short because when I get into the studio tour, I keep talking and talking and talking. I think I need to get out a little more because this is my opportunity to talk to people. So anyway, this is my it's called Wrap Me Up sweater scarf. And it is a big long piece with sleeves on the end, and I haven't got it quite, there we go. So, you know, this would be pretty comfortable for me too because it's not got anything under the arms, so it would allow for some airflow. But there's quite a few ways that different ways that you can wear this. And one of those ways is even just as a scarf. So this yarn is from Red Fox Fibers. It's their DK Tweed, and the colorway is Driftwood. So it took almost 4 skeins of the Driftwood, and it was very easy to knit. The pattern is by Knititude. She's a Calgary designer, and I saw it on Instagram and had to knit it. And it was the pattern was very well written for somebody like me who's kind of a newbie to knitting. So I understood it, and I had no questions. And there's a video on there on how to different ways to wear it. So anyway, that's my one finish for this week. My other finish, I just sat down here, and I got my socks finished. So these were out of my sock book, and they had lace on them on the front, and I made them into little shorty socks because I wanted to use my sock needles. So this was the Slocan Lake colorway in the Merino Cashmere nylon from Riverstone yarns. And it's so pretty. I have enough to make another pair for myself, another shorter pair, but I think I'm going to make them a little bit taller at the back here. So that was exciting, and so I have enough probably to make a pair of these. Aren't these adorable? This was a conglomeration of Kate Atherley's baby socks pattern and Sock Street baby socks pattern. And the yarn, they're just adorable, and I finished them, it took me like 2 days to do them up. And I do them on 2.5 millimeter needles, and the yarn I used, sorry to keep popping in and out of here, things are falling down. not in my usual place. So the yarn I used was a variegated yarn. It was called Pixie Dust, also from Riverstone Yarns. And it was a sport weight yarn, 100% superwash merino. And I picked this up at Fiberphilia Fest 2018. So, and I knit my daughter a pair of socks out of it. And I had some left over so I can make some baby socks. And I have 2 balls like this left over, so I probably will be able to make more baby socks. Kind of fun. Now, my husband's grandson, George, is a dragon slayer. He's 2, and he has a sword and a shield all the time. And I found this on Ravelry. So that's my next project. I've got the yarn for that. I'm waiting for some other yarn to come to make a baby sweater for the baby. But in the meantime, I think I can do this knight's helmet for George so he can be a dragon slayer with the appropriate attire as well. So as far as quilting goes, I haven't really done very much on my own quilts. I haven't really done much on customer quilts either in the last couple weeks. But I am working on the Libs Elliot quilt, and I will have that done for next time to show you. This quilt behind me is the Spring Bouquet quilt, and it was a kit from Laundry Basket Quilts years and years ago when I had a store. I signed a bunch of people up for a Block of the Month program. And I had, I think, 25 people. I got all these kits ordered, and I had to pay for them up front, and they arrived, and they were little packages about this big. And I had told everybody they were going to be $40 a month. So what they included was all of the cutouts for the applique. And they still had to provide background fabric. Well, when I opened that box up, I panicked. I was in tears. I thought, oh my gosh, nobody's going to pay $40 for this. Well, first one I did, I pulled it out, put it all together, ironed it all down, and I realized there's $100 worth of time in this little package, so everybody's going to pay $40 for these. Anyway, everybody that did their quilt was very pleased with it, and they all turned out a little bit different. I made my blocks a little bit bigger so I had more background to quilt in, and this quilt got finished for the 2015 quilt show here in Penticton and did win the Viewer's Choice ribbon. So that made it eligible to go to the National Juried Show in Toronto in 2016 when they first had their category for CQA ribbon winners. So it's been around, this one, and I'm very pleased with it. We were going to hang it up in the bedroom upstairs, but it just was too big, and so I put it up on the wall down here so I can enjoy it for a little while, and then I'll change it up and put something else there. So I will say happy quilting and happy knitting and happy spending some time out in the garden and hopefully enjoying some fresh air. And I'll pop the studio tour in right here. And as usual, I'll link all of the things down below. So if you wouldn't mind to like, and please do feel free to comment either here or on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. So I hope you enjoy the studio tour, and we'll see you in a few weeks when something else gets done. Thanks for joining me. Welcome to my studio. Come on in. Take a look at the quilt we've got hanging on the wall. That's my Spring Bouquet quilt. An applique quilt designed by Adita Sitar of Laundry Basket Quilts. And all the applique pieces came pre-cut, but the kits weren't all exactly the same, and everybody ended up with something a little bit different. And then we have our display room where we usually have the customer quilts laid out on the bed when they come to pick them up, and they get to see them all at once, and it's always pretty impressive. This is my trail mix quilt, which you've seen a few times if you've been watching my videos. And then this room just kind of has stuff piled everywhere. So that dresser is full of fabric, and that's why there's fabric piled on top and to the side. That little table in the corner has project bags that are ready to be put together. And then I've got my ribbons hung on my diplomas from my past life. And another window in here. And my quilt ladder is usually full of quilts. Got some bags on there for quilts, and I got a couple closets. One closet's full of UFOs, and the other closet's full of customer quilts. So, as we come in, here is my working space. It's my Debra Quilt Slot sign made by Sheila for my Poppins Club Christmas thing a few years back. And then I've got a couple of shelves of thread that are in DVD boxes. They're sorted by type of thread and lights, darks, variegated, that kind of thing. I can usually find exactly what I need pretty quick. And then there's a shelf of bolts of fabric that would take up too much room in the dresser, and there's no room left in the dresser, so there you go. So then I got a little desk my dad made when he was in high school that holds my bobbin winder and my iron. And my bookshelf has books and patterns and bobbins and a bin of long arm rulers. And on the very top is my great grandma's sewing machine and her Quality Street sewing tin. So that's pretty cool. And this is my A1 quilting machine. And it is computerized to the point where it speeds up and slows down with me. So it's just got a stitch regulator, but I do all my designs freehand. So I don't have a quilt loaded right now. I just have one draped over the bars. So the actual quilting that I do with this machine is, you see the green thread there. It holds all three layers together, the quilt top, the quilt batting, and the back of the quilt. And then there's my design wall. And on the design wall today is my start to finish Jamie Wallen quilt. Jamie did a class in Portland at MQX West a few years back. And we pieced the quilt in the morning. It was pretty much cut out. And in the afternoon we went into a long arm room and long armed, and I actually did finish quilting that day because I was using his thread and I wanted to finish. So start to finish in one day, and Jamie put his dragonfly on there for me. I appreciated that, and it's kind of special because it's one of my inspiration bits from when I started to learn to long arm. That's Jamie's dragonfly fascinated me. And then I have a quilt stand here that I usually have the top draped over when I'm putting the batting and the backing on the machine. My ironing board fits perfectly in that little spot against the wall, and I lay it on the long arm table when I'm using the ironing board. And then my little treadle machine here, kind of using it as a desk right now. It was opened up in the other at the other house in the foyer, but it works just as well as a desk, and it has a belt and everything. It would work if I opened it up, so maybe one day. And we got a bin for scraps and a bag for pieces scrap batting. And then, yeah. So there's the sign from when I have my quilt shop at the Flamingo Motel. So on the edge of this design wall here, we have a little bit of a bulletin board. I keep my name tag up there. I have the instructions for all my rulers in one place so I can find them in case there's something I'm not getting the ruler to do efficiently. I'm sure there's a better way if I just read the instructions. And then there's my Debra Quilts Lots bag I'm working on from the class I took in February. My little rolling cart with the long arm things I use all the time, my pins, my measuring tape, and my marking tools. The drawers have tools and threads in them. Some wide backs on bolts in the bin there, and some other assorted fabrics. The bottom shelf here has all the scraps that have been sorted by color. The top shelf has all the scraps that have been cut up into the pieces recommended in the Quiltville scrap management system. The middle shelf has finished quilts on it. Yay! I was watching a studio tour with Laundry Basket Quilts, and she had finished quilts on her shelves, and I thought, well, that looks so much better than the UFOs. So I took the UFOs, put them in the closet, and took the finished quilts out of the closet and put them on the shelf, and it's much calmer. I look at all the things I've done rather than look at all the things I have to do. On the top shelf here, I have project bags. So the two end bags are my own, and I have them full of yarns, and in between are all the project bags I have for sale on my website, debraquiltslots.com. And those are so much fun to make and a lot of fun to use. So on the side of here, I have a bunch of stuff that I don't use very often, but I can't ever find it when I go to use it. So I've got it all clipped on the side here. Some templates and some rulers, my scissor holder for when I go to retreat and that kind of thing. And then I have my interfacings and fusibles. And then there's my cutting table. I love this cutting table. This was a dresser in the room that we turned into Flamingo Quilt Works when we were at the motel. Frank made a top for it that fit my cutting mat exactly. And we got some hooks on the side for my big rulers and some casters on there so I can pull it out and actually walk all the way around it. And it's awesome. And the drawers are full of things as well. And this little table kind of sits in the corner here. Sometimes it has my serger on it. Sometimes it is just piled with stuff. Today it's got the things that I plan to work on later. My little Fin du Monde quilt and my Be Colorful quilt. And sometimes I pull it over beside my sewing table and get so just to add more surface area. This is my ruler shelf, and it has little pegs underneath that hold my scissors and my rotary cutters, my notes. The shelf itself has some slots so that the rulers stand up on there, and then once those are full, the other rulers just slide in between. So that's pretty awesome. And then I have my sewing table. This is made out of cabinet doors from the kitchen we took out of the last house. So 2 doors. Frank cut a slot in to fit my machine. We got some spindles from the hardware store and made them into the legs. That shelf underneath, I can put everything on there that I need to grab quickly. And that drawer is actually from the kitchen as well, and it's just full of a collection of fabrics that I'm going to make a quilt out of. And there's my tablet and my speaker, so I can listen to my audiobooks as I'm working or sewing or whatever. It makes me feel like I'm doing 2 things at once. My trusty Janome Memorycraft 6500. This machine is, I don't know, probably 16 or 17 years old, and it's not as pretty as it used to be, but it works just as good as it did from day one. So it's going to be with me for a while, I hope. And here is my sewing box. The box came home from the New to You shed at the dump, and took it apart and painted it up, put a picture on Facebook, and somebody I knew said, "Hey, did you get that at the dump?" So I know where it came from even. And underneath it is the sewing cabinet that always lived at our house, and it belonged to my grandma. And we never had a machine that fit inside of it. Mom's machine sat on top of it on a board, and when I could reach the ground on that stool, I was given a little bit of instruction on how to use the sewing machine, and once in a while I got to use it, not very often. So that's where I learned to sew, that cabinet and that stool. So it's quite a while ago. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the tour of my space, my surroundings. I have everything I need here within arm's reach, and lots of light, and I spend a lot of time down here, and I really enjoy it. So thanks for joining me.